It is time for the Super Bowl. Super Bowl time. Uh, for me personally, usually it's a great day. Some Super Bowls are better than others or have more hype than others, in my opinion. Al, do you agree with me that I don't think this Super Bowl has been hyped that much? I don't. Maybe I'm just not paying attention to it, but to me, and I'm sure in Philadelphia, in your area, that it is all over the place. But the general national media, I've not seen it as much.
I don't know, man. I don't pay attention anyway, so I wouldn't be able to really tell you. It feels
Right,
like every other Super Bowl to me. It's on
right,
ESPN 24 hours a day, so and that's the only
right,
thing I would be paying attention to anyway. You know what I mean?
right.
So, the only thing that's annoying me is that the conspiracy stuff has taken a lot of focus away from the game. That's the one
Oh yeah.
disappointing thing about this whole
That
thing.
the Chiefs had to answer like 10 questions about it yesterday.
Yeah, it's frankly it's a little annoying. So, but it is what it is. So there it is. But that might be why you feel what you're feeling. Other than that, I'm really not sure because it just seems normal to me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not saying it's like a horrible game or a horrible hype, but I've definitely been more hyped for other Super Bowls
Right on,
and,
right on.
and felt that hype a little more, from outside sources. Like I don't know, whatever for whatever reason, I usually text with a few other buddies about the games and stuff, and nobody's saying boo.
That's interesting. Yeah, I wonder. I bet it's the conspiracy stuff.
Well, also too, nobody's a Kansas City or Philadelphia fan.
Well, that helps too. Yes, and aren't a lot of your buddies New York fans? So
Oh
therefore,
yeah.
they hate the Eagles, and therefore they would be less interested.
Yeah, and a lot of them are like with me is I'm sick of Kansas City, so I kind of don't want them to win, but
But they don't want to root for the Eagles.
I can't root for the Eagles, so I have to root for Kansas City. So I don't
Which
know,
well,
but
that makes sense because I would be like I
yeah, when it was Dallas and Buffalo, what were you thinking?
well I'll give you real quick. I'll give you the worst one ever. That it was the undefeated Patriots team versus the Giants because I did not want the Patriots to go down in history, and I hate the Giants. So that was
Right, right.
a
Oh yeah, that's it. Then and you know what? I was in the same boat.
total lose lose. And the worst thing about it is it ended up putting them a good but not one of the best of all time quarterbacks is probably going to make the Hall of Fame because of that win.
I would agree. I would totally agree.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I'm trying to think yeah, the Dallas and Buffalo thing that was easy because I just rooted for Buffalo.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, but and I rooted for Buffalo all four times.
Yeah, because they went against all your competition in the East.
Exactly, and they couldn't get it done ever. Oh man, yeah,
All
that's
right,
priceless.
so just everybody listening, we're going to have some rankings coming up at the end of this. We're going to do wide receiver and tight end, our top tens of all time. If you guys have joined us on the Baseline podcast, sometimes we do top 10 baseball positions, and we do like 2 hours and really go deep. We're not going to go as deep here, but we're going to do the top 10 tight ends and wide receivers. And the next week, when we review the Super Bowl, at the end of that one, we'll do running backs and quarterbacks top 10 ever. Just our opinion, something fun to do.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. It was fun making the list. It was very hard because there's so many good players, but it'll be
That's
fun
the
to talk about.
problem.
I
That's
think we'll
the
have some
problem.
differences, which would be cool because we're able to talk about different guys and stuff. So that'd be great.
Okay, but let's dive into this game. This
Let's
this
do it.
this random game on Sunday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay. Well, I want your take first. I want to know what you're thinking. It is your team that's in here, so you should take the reins.
All right, man. Cool. Well, okay. Let me hit this first along the way to my pick here. Um, if I can find it, where was it here? I have the injury report, which one of the great things about this Super Bowl, one of the best things about it, is there's not a lot of injuries. You're not going to be like, oh, the Eagles didn't win because somebody was hurt, or the Chiefs didn't win because somebody was hurt. There's a couple guys in limited practice for the Eagles, and one guy limited practice for the Chiefs, and that's it. You got Jalen Carter, who's sick. He'll be fine by Sunday. Um, Kenny Gainwell's limited because of the concussion. Everybody assumes he's going to get cleared. Uh, Devontae Smith limited because of a hamstring. The Eagles have already said he's definitely playing. They're just watching and taking it easy on him. And coolest news of all, And wait till closer to game day here and listen for the news. Brandon Graham looks like he's going to play.
Wow.
Incredible, dude. The guy who stripped Tom Brady and won and clinched that Super Bowl for the Eagles is coming back for the big game, man. And nobody thought that was going to happen. So that's
Yeah,
pretty fun.
'cause he was supposed to be out for like something like, well, out for the year, but he's been gone for how long?
Oh my God. I mean, geez, at least 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been gone for the over half the season. I
Wow,
can't
that's
remember when
awesome.
it happened exactly, but it's over half the season. He was in, yeah, because that was a big blow for them when he got hurt because he was having one of his, he had his best season of his career last year at 34, 35 years old. And he's had a great career. So he's still a viable player. So that's huge if he comes back and can give them a couple pass rushes in that game. That'd be sweet.
Yep, yep.
And so the point of all that was there's not a whole lot to worry about with anybody. Even the two offensive linemen that were dinged up last week for the Eagles, Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson, are off the injury report. So it's as good as it could be injury wise going into this game for both teams, and that's pretty cool to see.
That is
Uh,
very cool. Very good.
yeah, I'm excited about that. Now, is this spread? I haven't looked in a couple days, Craig. I should have looked before this. Is the spread still at 1.5 Chiefs?
That I believe so. Let me check my where I go. It's not we kind of I didn't really get on it too much because we both agreed that it was not gonna change much. We did
I
not
didn't
think it
think
was
so. I
gonna
was just
be.
curious as I'm talking about it if it actually did or not. Yeah, it's still 1.5. Where I'm looking, and another place has it down to 1. So either one.
Yep. I have 1.5 as well.
Okay, cool. So it's basically a pick 'em, and with the point and a half going to the Chiefs because they're the Chiefs, and I don't blame them. They should get the point and a half. Bottom line, I'm taking the Eagles. I'm nervous about it. I don't know if I'm right, but this game could go either way. So screw it. I'm taking my team. And,
All right.
and there's no reason they can't win this game. The only big issue, and I talked about it last week, in my mind at all, is Jake Elliott. And if this comes down to a game of kickers, the Eagles might be screwed. Hopefully, Jake finds his clutch self that he was for 7 years before this season. But that could be the deciding factor in the game because the Chiefs have a clutch kicker, Harrison Bucker, who is money from like 58 yards in. And the
Yep.
Eagles, unless they're really desperate, probably aren't going to consider kicking a field goal longer than 50 yards. So that's a big deal. So if they lose, that could be why, or it could just be the awesomeness of Patrick Mahomes. Who knows? But that is one big factor going in. I'm taking the Eagles 33-30, and it's only that close because Jake Elliott missed 2 field goals.
Well, I think talent wise, player for player, starting 22 to starting 22, I think the Eagles are more talented.
You can make a good case.
Yeah, and I think their defense is clearly better as well.
I agree with that too.
Now, whatever the conspiracy theorists think or not, I do think that nothing is going to be handed to Kansas City on any 50-50s. I think the right call will be made regardless because the focus is so much on it. Everybody's going to be all over them if the referees do something again. So I think the officiating won't be a factor in helping Kansas City or hurting Philadelphia. Whatever happens will truly be called, I think.
Can I interject on that real quick, Craig? Because I love what you just said.
Sure.
Um, the I think the best thing about all the ramping up of this whole thing as it ramped up more and more during the season and reached a fever pitch during the playoffs is that the hyper focus happened during this 2 weeks. The NFL officials had to come out and deny, I mean, all kinds of articles are written on both sides of the equation.
They
Um,
changed the rule. They also changed the rule.
what was that?
I don't know if I think it's actually not going into effect till next season, but they're going to review all quarterback slides,
Oh, interesting. I didn't catch
and
that. Okay,
yeah, and
okay.
that's because people were on an uproar because of the Houston game where he didn't get hit, and they called it.
Right. Also, they're reviewing if they get hit on a slide.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I thought you
If
meant the
there's
spot of
nothing
the
written,
ball. I'm with you now. No, that's great. That's great. Awesome. Good. I think
right?
they should. They should also be. They're going to talk about this in the offseason, and I hope they do it. They should be reviewing face masks too, because it's become the most missed play that I see.
Yep. Yep.
And it's a danger. It's a really dangerous play. So I hope they start reviewing that too, because that one should you should have to pay if you do a dangerous play, and they're not paying enough in general. So anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just had to jump in because I love what you said, and I agree exactly with what you said, because I think it's the best possible thing that could happen for the team I like
Right.
going into this game.
Right. Right. I think we're going to be free of any controversy because like I said,
Other than
everybody's going to
normal
be
human error.
right, but everybody's going to be all over them if they make a questionable call.
I completely agree. I think it's a great
So,
pick.
having said all that, and I did say Kansas, I thought Philadelphia was the more talented team. Their defense is also better. I, you're going to be surprised.
Hmm.
I think Philadelphia is going to smash Kansas City.
Oh, I love it.
I have 32-17.
Oh my God, I would love that. Sign me up, book it now. Let's go.
I think this is where Kansas City realizes they're not as good as they used to be, and maybe they restock next year and they'll probably be back next year. Who knows? But I think this year's team is ripe for the picking right now, and the Eagles are the team to do it. They're both second half teams, but the way Kansas City does it is different than the way Philly does it. I think Philly's second half is more reliable,
The run game.
where Kansas City just relies on the magic of Mahomes, whereas Philadelphia wears you down in the first half and then just bowls you over in the second half with the running game mostly.
Yep.
And I also think the best thing that can happen for the Eagles is Barkley gets 25 plus carries and Jalen Hurts throws for under 200 yards.
I completely agree. Completely agree.
If
Yep.
Jalen Hurts has like 35 or more attempts, that's not good.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, because that means they're playing from behind. Yeah, because
Yeah,
there's no way they're game planning 35 pass attempts. No way.
right, right.
I agree 100%.
Whereas Kansas City, they want Mahomes to have at least 35 pass attempts, probably.
Absolutely. You want the ball in that dude's hands as much as possible. And
Yeah.
their run game, while okay, Pacheco has been a non-factor since came back from the injury. I don't know if he's not really fully healthy. That would be my guess.
I
But he
agree. He has
he,
been small.
he hasn't done jack. And it's just been Kareem Hunt who's played pretty well for the point of his career that he's in. But that means he's averaging like 3.7 yards a carry, and he's like become a churner. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yep, yep, yep. So the name of the game is run the ball and stop the run, especially in the playoffs. And Philadelphia does both of those better than the Eagles do it. And that's why I think they're going to control this game right from the outlet. And it's going to be it'll be one of those fourth quarters where everybody's celebrating.
I love it, man. I would
You'll
love
be
that so much.
relaxed. When Dallas won 52-17, I was just laughing and having a grand old time at like halftime, basically.
Yes, oh, that'd be so awesome. I've never experienced that ever. When the Eagles beat the Patriots, it was you had Tom Brady coming down the field on the last drive, so
Right, right, right.
there's no time to relax.
I do think the closer it is, the more that favors Kansas City more than Philadelphia.
I agree 100%.
Like you said, especially because of the kicking game.
Yep, and
And
Mahomes.
the thing to avoid is being, giving Kansas City the ball with 2 minutes or less to go within one score of
I,
either taking the lead or tying, because that's exactly what they will do if that's the scenario.
I completely agree. I completely agree. Yeah. No, my score has them getting a touchdown to make it 30-33 with a couple minutes left. You know what I mean?
Right, right,
And the
right.
Eagles hopefully grinding that out to zeros on the clock. But man, yeah, no, I love yours. I will take yours and run with it. I love
All right, so that's our Super Bowl prediction.
it. Love it, man. Love it. Beautiful. I can't wait. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be
It
really
feels like
interesting.
we're missing something, but we're not because we don't have a review part.
I know, right? Yeah, yeah. We only started 15 minutes ago, and we did all the games.
Yeah, the one game.
That's right. I mean, we could break down the Pro Bowl games if we.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, right. I would have had to have paid attention to them at all to
Yeah,
break them
I didn't
down.
watch a second of it.
I'm just glad I didn't hear about somebody tearing their ACL in a flag football game. Robert Edwards from 25 years ago.
Yeah, I mean that's what they're doing now. They're playing flag football.
I can't believe it, dude. Do you not remember? I mean, I know you do, but do they not remember? I believe his name was Robert Edwards. He was a really good rookie running back for the New England
Yeah,
Patriots.
he blew his ACL, but that was a beach game
It
on
was
the
a
sand.
yes, which
They're
is
not doing that. They're playing on the field with this flag.
which it's crazy to me. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then they have all these competitions and stuff too.
Those are fine. Listen, you want to have quarterbacks throw the balls at moving targets and receivers catch things with oven mitts on their hands. I'm fine with that. But having them
Right,
running around and getting competitive, that's dangerous, man. Like it's I mean, I know it's different because it's not on sand, but who thought sand was dangerous? You know, they play beach volleyball all the time.
right.
And Robert
So,
Edwards was never the same.
no, he was not. Unfortunately,
Yeah, that's
he blew his ACL that game.
say it again.
He blew out his ACL, right?
Exactly. And it was just at the end of I guess maybe the better way to say it would be it was coming to the beginning of the era when that injury was never going to ruin anybody's career ever again. But
Right.
it wasn't quite there yet, you know?
Yep. And he was not. Yeah, not the
Yep.
same.
Shame. But yeah,
Okay,
man.
well,
So yeah, we did it. Super Bowl. The I was thinking about doing something with prop bets, but nah, they're just so dumb. I just they make me laugh, you know.
oh yeah, you can. I mean, you could go crazy and bet on the coin toss and all kinds of things.
Over under on the length of the national anthem. I always get a kick out of it. My buddy's big into that one. He bets it every year. It cracks me up. He never gets it right.
I don't even know who's doing it.
It's oh wait, the national. Oh, you know what? Never mind. I was going to say Kendrick Lamar, but that's the halftime
No,
show.
that's halftime.
You know what? That's interesting. Let me take a peek at that real quick. Shoot. I'm the slowest typer on the planet, so bear with me a sec here. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, that's funny. When I type in Super Bowl national anthem, the whole thing comes up Super Bowl national anthem over under. John Batiste? Oh, I know that name, but he's not my genre, so I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know anything about Kendrick Lamar either.
Kendrick Lamar, I know now.
I mean, I've heard the name, but I don't know anything about him.
Weirdly enough, Craig, there's a connection to your reaction channel, Perks Recap on YouTube. People that don't know it, check it out. It's awesome. Um, do you remember? I mean, God, we've done. Do you realize now that I've now done something like 36 reactions with you?
Really?
I save them all to a folder on YouTube, so they're all just my reactions in one thing. You know what I mean? So I can find them quickly. And I think it's 36 if you count the King Crimson they removed.
Wow.
I
Yes.
can't believe it. I couldn't believe it, man. I was like, "Whoa, that's nuts! I love it."
They never came back either. They're gone. I think they're
Yeah,
gone for
that
good.
sucks, man. What a bummer. That's why I'm staying away. I'm just staying away from King Crimson now. I really wanted to. That's why I switched paths to do Adrian Ballou in ways that wouldn't get blocked. Hopefully, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Because I
I'm
just
glad I'm
didn't.
saying that right. By the way, thank.
Baloo, yes, you said it
Baloo.
right a lot, but then you talked yourself out of it at one time and said below or something like that. But most of the time, you've said it right. It is Baloo.
It
um,
all happens in real time.
yeah, that's right. That's right. I love it, man. Um, uh, Point of this is the connection to Kendrick Lamar is I had you do a reaction, and it's a long time ago now. It's one of my first 5 or 6 to a jazz guy named Kamasi Washington. Do you happen to remember that one? Because it's been
I remember the name.
okay, so it was really out there and different for your channel, especially at the time before I had really gotten into all my jazz stuff. And it was like a 30-piece jazz band, and there's a bass player named Thundercat who took a 5 minute long bass solo, and then Kamasi Washington is the sax player. Those two guys grew up with Kendrick Lamar and were on his first album.
Oh, okay.
So there's a weird connection. I'm not a rap guy. I never heard the album they played on. I like their jazz. I didn't listen to the rap stuff they did, but there's a possibility those two guys might show up, which could be cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I would love that. Yeah, I am interested in what guests might come out because there's been some interesting names thrown out there.
I know I
There's
heard
always
some names,
guests.
but I didn't know a lot of them. What names have you heard that were interesting to you? Because I saw one name and it was a rapper I didn't know. And other than that, I haven't really paid attention.
Oh, who was it? Was it Jay Z?
Oh, wow.
I think it might have been Jay Z. I think either no, Usher.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because yeah, he was connected with him. I guess they met recently or something, and people think they might have been planning it out. But there'll be somebody, regardless. There'll be guests. There always are now.
Oh, no doubt about it, man. They make it just a massive, an event. Even if it's not our thing, it's still going to be a lot of people's thing, and it's going to be huge.
Yep, yep, yep.
Hopefully, they won't be dressed in giant sperms. Like, was that last year where the female did the thing where they all were dressed like giant sperms?
Was that last year? Or the year before? Wasn't
That
that Rihanna?
that was Rihanna, yes, and maybe it was the year before. That one cracked me up so much.
Because no, see, I'm getting confused because they do it on Thanksgiving now too.
Oh, they do that big. That's right. Yeah, I
Right.
can't remember.
Remember,
I
like
just remember.
Dolly Parton was in a Cowboys cheerleader outfit. She's like 85 years old or whatever she
I
is.
know, man. Incredible. Yes, I've been trying. Well, and that image is competing with the one with me when she got inducted at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and wore a leather onesie.
Yeah. Chill out, Dolly. Sit down before you fall down. All right.
Oh, I love it. Whew.
Would you like to do wide receivers first or tight ends?
Ooh. I'll tell you, the tougher one by far for me was wide receiver. So, do you want to do the tougher one first or the easier one first?
Well, let's do the tougher one only because the first two for me, I think, are slam dunks, but the first one definitely. Um,
For sure.
yeah. But let's start at the bottom of the list.
Okay. And we'll do
So
like we do on the with Jordan, where if I say somebody and you have them on your list, you tell me that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. You want to go first?
So sure. I have somebody who just barely made the cut. He was almost in the honorable mentions, which I have one, two, three, four, five of those. But he made the cut at the last, right at the line here. Number 10, Chris Carter.
Oh, beautiful, dude. He's my number 8. He to me, real quick, and then you go off. Best hands I've ever seen.
That's why, because of the hands, absolutely insane.
Yep.
Um, I mean, 13,000 yards,
And
fourth in
that's nothing to
receiving.
sneeze at, you
Yeah,
know?
fourth in receiving touchdowns, fifth in receptions. I mean, yeah, I can't believe it took him that long to get into the Hall of Fame because he was denied a few years in a row.
That was dumb. I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense. He was clearly a Hall of Famer, and there was no reason to keep him out. Whoever wasn't voting for him doesn't understand the game, or didn't
Yep,
like him for some reason. And I've never heard anything bad about Chris Carter since he got sober after he left the Eagles.
yep, yep, absolutely.
Do you know the real story with Buddy Ryan cutting him? Have you ever heard this, by the way?
No, go ahead.
Because this is a good story, and it's really fascinating. Because Eagle Land, we were all just like livid because he showed a lot of promise. All he does was it did was the famous Buddy Ryan quote when he got traded was all he does is catch touchdowns, and he caught a lot of crap for it, and understandably so. But the real story came out later from Chris Carter. The real story was Chris Carter was an alcoholic, and he was a whisper away from drinking himself out of the league at 23, 4 years old.
Yeah, I remember that. I know that part.
And
I had
Buddy
a buddy
Ryan,
actually who knew him pretty well.
oh, say that again.
I had a buddy who knew him pretty well because he was in AA with him.
Get out of town.
Yeah, he was in AA with him.
Oh, that's
And
really cool.
yeah, and when I worked at ESPN, Chris Carter was working there as well, and I brought the guy in as a guest, and yeah, he wasn't BSing. I thought maybe he was full of it because the guy was kind of like that where he exaggerates things.
Right, right.
And I was like, yeah, all right, I'll bring you in. And
Yeah, let's find
no,
out.
no,
Yeah.
him and Chris Carter. Yeah, as soon as he saw him, Chris recognized him. They talked for like 15 minutes. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's amazing. So yeah, Buddy's thing, and there was some I forget there was some he had some idea in mind for how to go about. But the point was it was a tough love thing. Get yourself together. I don't care if you play football, you need to get your life together. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And Chris did and became went on to become one of the greatest receivers of all time. So yeah, he was my number 8
Okay. All right.
because of those hands. And by the way, the other thing about Chris Carter, best guy I ever saw at I don't even know what you call it, but that little freeze on the sideline, planting your feet and making the impossible hands catch.
Best toe tapper of all time.
Toe tapper, that's what I was looking for. Thank you. Thank you. Boom. All right. Very cool. Okay, so my number 10, and this was a guy I had to leave some very good receivers off to get on, but I put him on, and it was a combination of awesomeness and longevity in this case, and that was Tim Brown.
On my honorable mentions, just didn't make the cut, but absolutely considered and absolutely worthy. I mean, Tim Brown was consistent for a very, very long time.
But it's crazy how long he was good, you know? Like he was, and he was a punt returner and a really electric when he was young, and he transitioned into being this super steady route runner guy. Like he was like a Major League Baseball pitcher that learns how to transition. Not a lot of players do that successfully. If the Blazers don't always become route runners, you know what I mean?
Right, right, right.
But Tim Brown did it all during his career. He did everything that you can do at receiver well at some point in his career, and that was very impressive to me. And then he built a lot of. Anyway, also it was cool that late resurgence when he and Jerry Rice were both or I think Jerry Rice was in his 40s and Tim Brown was in his late 30s, and they were both catching 80 balls a year. That was beautiful, beautiful.
Actually, I just added another name to my honorable mentions.
Oh, I love it because I have. You said you had five. Now you have six. Is that right, or what was it?
Yeah, Brown was one of them, so I have five left.
Okay, I have seven, so we're going to have some good honorable mentions.
Yeah, and I tell you, anybody puts the honorable mentions on their top 10, I have no problem with it.
same, same, because I'm probably going to have some in my honorable mentions you have in the top 10, and we obviously vice versa because it happened already so far. So
Yep.
that's awesome.
Okay, my number 9.
Mm-hmm.
Where? Come on. I believe, yeah, he played in a time when it wasn't exactly. This is going way back. There was no black players in the league, I don't think. But his numbers are pretty ridiculous, and I kind of didn't realize how good he was. But it's Don Hudson.
Oh, dude. Listen, oh, shoot. Sorry. I'm sorry. I have my dinger on. Let me turn that off.
Oh, you know what? Me too.
Now, excuse me. Geez, I'm having a moment with my throat here. Yeah, I'm with you on Don Hudson. Don Hudson, after doing a little research, I put him all the way up at number 3, Craig.
Wow, yeah, because I mean, unbelievable.
For
I
the
mean,
time,
for
he
the
was light
time,
years ahead.
yeah, because at that point, I mean, they could basically mug you all the way down the field. There was no
Exactly.
penalties for that. And pass interference, I don't even know if it was a rule yet.
I think you had to stab him.
You gotta get a shiv, gotta carve out a shiv and shiv
Oh,
him.
that's awesome.
Yeah, so basically, so you put him all the way at 3. That's impressive. I wanted to at least get him on the list, and I debated. You can kind of interchange some of these. 9, 8, 10, 9, 8, 7, all the way up to maybe even 6 on my list. I could interchange any of them, and that's fine. He just landed at 9. But I wanted, like I said, I wanted to make sure he was on the list.
I love that you did that, and yeah, and he was the most surprising placement for me going into this thing. And I'll read you what convinced me to put him up a little higher, but I'm all good with wherever you have him as long as he made the list, just because of how good he was in his era. And by the way, to clarify the era to our listeners, he played from 35 to 45, so we are in the way back zone. We're in the leather helmet zone, I think.
Yeah, oh yeah. The picture I have of him does not have a helmet. Does
Okay,
not have
no,
anything.
he probably played from no helmet to leather helmet transition.
Yeah, and he won championships. He won 3 championships with the Packers,
Yes.
and he was on 8 All Pro teams.
Yeah, he was the man in his era. He was, and this is what I read that convinced me to slide him up a little bit. This was from NFL.com, their top 10 receivers, and they have Don Hudson at number 2, Craig,
Wow.
which surprised me because I was definitely I knew who my 1 and 2 were going to be before I even looked at anything.
Yeah,
So I think
me
we're going to
too.
be the same there. I'm curious, but here's what I read. Jerry Rice is often thought of as the top player in all of NFL history, but Don Hudson held that honor for the league's first 50 years. He is Sammy Baugh and Otto. Wait, I'm sorry. Sammy Baugh, and Otto Graham were in the conversation for that prize then. Hudson's NFL record of 99 career receiving touchdowns was not surpassed until 40 years after he retired. When he hung him
Yeah,
up in the mid 40s, he had posted nearly twice as many receptions as the next closest player. And the only
yeah,
they
that's
said
domination. That's dominance.
yes, and then they say the only criticism is that he played when the black guys weren't allowed in the league, which is legit. But you know it wasn't his fault, so I can't hold it against him too much. Babe Ruth was still awesome, even though he didn't play against black guys. You know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm glad he's on the list, obviously, and yeah, I don't have him as high as you, but I definitely see the reasoning. For his time period, yeah, he was football basically. It seems like the Alabama Antelope.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a great nickname. Oh, I love that. Awesome. Well, I'm glad he made both our lists. That's a good one from the blast from the past there.
Yes. Okay.
All right, man. So my number nine, and this is a guy that this is one of the guys. This was one of my first favorite receivers in the NFL. And talk about hands, and then his stats were even better than I remembered when you go back and look at him, and that is Steve Largent.
Oh yeah. Yep. I absolutely remember Steve Largent. A lot of people don't realize that Jerry Rice breaking all the records at a receiver at the receiver position. A lot of them were Steve Largent's records.
Exactly. Which I forgot. You know, either I didn't know or forgot. I forgot. I remember. I vaguely remember him breaking a bunch of records at the end of his career, which is when I was seeing him. When I was seeing him, he was the guy who was the slowed down veteran who was the master route runner. You know what I mean?
Yep, yep.
Um,
He had 819 catches, 13,000 yards, and 100 touchdowns,
yeah,
and was the Walter Payton Man of the Year in '88, and was on 7 Pro Bowl teams. He absolutely needs to be on anybody's list, no doubt about it.
yeah, man. And he averaged. And here's the thing that stunned me, based on me being, because I think he retired about when I was like 10 or 12. So I was just
Yeah, I
really,
was a little young for him. I didn't see the beginning of his career to the when I was watching football and was starting to understand it. It was a little bit like more like the halfway point of his career, the
yes,
middle to the end of his career is when I really got into football.
yes.
I didn't see really the beginning, but regardless, the numbers don't lie.
No. And here's what stunned me, just having seen the end when he was this master route runner guy who was toe tapping on the sidelines and doing all that stuff, is he averaged 16 yards a catch for his career, Craig. That is,
Wow.
I mean, that is one of the biggest numbers. That's point 0.4 yards more a catch than Randy Moss.
Yeah, that's crazy. Another time period where people threw the ball down the field. They didn't use throwing as a form of running, where you're just like throwing little to the backfield out of the back, the running back out of the backfield for
Right,
3 yards.
absolutely.
That didn't happen then.
Right, for sure, for sure. Yeah, it just surprised me based on just what I saw at the end of his career. That's so cool. I mean, just a multi-dimensional guy, one of the best ever.
Oh, I didn't mention he's number 4 on my list.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome. That's awesome.
All right. So
And
I'm
I
gonna
had my number 8 already, so go to town, Chris. That was Chris Carter for me.
okay, number 8 for me. I'm not sure if he'll be on your list or on your honorable mentions, but it is Marvin Harrison
Oh yes,
Senior.
yes, he is number 7 for me.
Okay, yep, absolutely, right there. Um, yeah, Peyton Manning to Marvin Harrison was 114 touchdowns.
Isn't that incredible?
That's well, that will never be broken. I don't think.
I can't imagine. It would be so. It's really hard to imagine a circumstance where that would happen.
He had over 1,000 receptions, 1,100 receptions.
Yep,
13 years he played.
he's third
128.
all time in receptions, correct?
Yeah, I mean he's right there. Another guy that like when you look at the numbers, he's got to be on this list. And yeah, he won the one championship right with the Colts
Yep, exactly. Yes, correct.
when they beat the Bears. Was it?
Bears. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he does have a championship to his resume as well. Um, yeah, just he absolutely deserves to be on the list.
100%, man. This guy was a model of consistency, and he was spectacular on top of that. So he did it all. He caught touchdowns. He caught a lot of passes. He had a solid yards per catch. He did, he did everything you want a receiver to do, and he did it all in an era, in the prime era for the wide receiver diva in the NFL. He did it all without ever hearing a peep out of him.
Right. Didn't he get? Didn't he? Something happen
There was something, and I
later
didn't want
on
to bring it up
when he
without knowing.
retired?
For some reason, the second he retired, he was never to be seen again because of something, and I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, me neither. But I don't think it was good. I think it was some scandal or something.
I remember that. I don't want to get too into it
Yeah,
without knowing.
I
Don't
don't
want to
want to
try.
get into what it is either. We'll just acknowledge that there was something and move on.
Yeah, totally, man. I'm with you 100%. Perfect. Perfect.
Okay, so that was number 8. So you're number 7.
My number 7 was Marvin Harrison.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to do my number 7,
Go for it.
and I'm thinking he's going to be on your list, but I don't know for sure.
Okay.
Lance Allworth.
That's my number 6. That's my favorite old school receiver. Even I mean, Don Hutson made it to number 3 because of what I was reading about him. But Lance Allworth was my guy growing up, and I don't remember. I never saw him play, but I read he was Bambi. I read about him. He sounded like the Randy Moss of his time or something like that. You know what I mean? And I'm obsessed with Lance Allworth. So yeah, go to town on him. I love him.
He had 85 touchdowns on 540 catches.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Most of the guys that
7,000.
have that many touchdowns are approaching 1,000 receptions.
Yeah, I would say. 7 1,000 yard seasons, and when they were playing, what, 14 games?
Yeah, and part of it was 12. It was he was in the between the 12 and 14 game era.
That's crazy that he got to 1,000 yards 7 times.
Insane, Craig. Like he must have been absolutely freaking incredible. I can't even
Yeah.
imagine how good he was.
For 6 first team All Pros, 7 Pro Bowls, 10,000 yards. Um, yeah, again, another one of these guys where you see the numbers and see the time. Talk about the time frame too. I don't have the list in front of me. I went through like 3 or 4 different things, and one of them said something about his yards per catch.
Oh, I got the number. You want
Yeah,
it? We just talked about Steve Larsen having a big number at 16. Lance Allworth is 18.9.
talk about an era where they throw the ball down the field. There are no 3 yard outs.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
18 yards a catch, and so that means, I mean, they're throwing the ball down the field, obviously, and still connecting at a unbelievable clip of 540 catches for him.
It's
Probably all of them were contested.
Yeah, and the thing is, he was a speed guy in an era like you said, where they could just assault him all the way down the field. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
there was no pass. I don't know when pass interference came in, but even when it came in, they still weren't calling it much.
Yeah, it was a joke back then, and
And now they can't touch him after 5 yards. They can do whatever they want all the way down the field.
all the way, all the way. And it's hard to even imagine to young football fans what it was like back then, but it was the truth. And if you want to see something wild, go look at some of the '70s Raiders teams and look at how their corners were playing. It was wild, and they were within the rules at the time, but they were destroying receivers on their routes. It
And
was
going over the middle meant you were insulting the other team. If you went over the middle,
hmm
and you were insulting that middle linebacker, because his job was to blow you up.
That's exactly right, man. That's exactly
And
right.
his job was to not let blow you up so you don't come back
Do you know how
over the
much?
middle.
Do you know how much Bill Walsh, Joe Montana, and the rest of those 49ers pissed off the NFL when they started running those crossing routes?
Yeah, I remember distinctly that was a legitimate thing. You had to have the balls on you to come over the middle. Like it was a big deal.
A
And
hundred
like I
percent,
said, other teams took it as an insult if you did, and especially the middle linebacker,
no doubt. You had maniacs like Bill Romanowski and other people like that back there trying to. Well, that was a little later, but
Mike
guys like Bill,
Singletary.
yeah, Bill Bergey for the Eagles, all
Yeah.
those famous Steelers linebackers.
Oh yeah. I mean, you could all go all the way back to uh,
Dick
not
Buckus.
yeah, Dick Buckus. Thank you.
Is that actually who you were going for? That's awesome.
Yeah, that's actually I
He's
was.
my
Yep.
favorite, one of my favorite names of all time.
Yeah, I mean, he had to be a tough guy with that name.
For real. I love it. All right, yeah, I'm right there with you on Lance, man. That dude, it's incredible to be because I don't even know where we would fall in the all-time receptions. I mean, it's probably somewhere around 50 or something, give or take. But in yards, he's just outside the top 25.
Okay, so your that was my number 7,
Yep. So
and
that
your
was my number
7 was
six.
taken.
So you're six.
Okay, wow, got a lot. We got a lot the same. Have we have one that's your Tim Brown was not on my list, but he was on my honorable mentions. Okay,
Right.
number 6. And really, 6, 5, 4, and 3 can go any friggin' way you want to me.
Okay.
But for me, it's Larry Fitzgerald.
Right on. And I have him number four.
Okay, you want to talk about 1,234 catches? Oh
Yeah,
wait, he
he's
had more than that.
number two all time in receiving yards and receptions. Right? Yeah.
Wait, although you know what? Now I'm looking at it, and this is really old. This list because they're saying entering the 2018 season.
Oh, geez. Okay. Yeah. And he put up that infamous 7.4 yard average season at 42 years old. He's still after that. So
So
yeah,
he's
he
got.
ended
So do
up
you have his
with
final? Do you have his final numbers?
he ended up with 1,432 receptions,
That's
which
crazy.
it's insane. He's second all time, and he has 330 more receptions than number three Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, he has basically 3 seasons worth of catches out over him.
Yeah, and by the way, Marvin Harrison has 11. This is a cool stat. Marvin Harrison retired with 1,102 catches. Chris Carter had 1,101. So Marvin's three and Chris is four.
Yeah,
Oh man,
fourteen
yeah. So
hundred
yeah,
though.
Fitz is number two all time in those two stats, and then he also had 121 touchdowns, which puts him sixth. So he was a I mean any way you want to quantify it, he
How
was
many
one of
yards did he end up with?
yards was 17,492, which is
Jeez,
and that's second all time. This is how great Jerry Rice was. That's 5,000 yards less than Jerry Rice. And
that's another thing that's crazy.
and it's bonkers. And yeah, we'll dig into that soon enough, I'm sure. But Fitz is number two in the two biggest things: receptions and yards. Yeah, and he's got the 121 touchdowns to go with it. I mean, he did everything, and he was clutch in the Super Bowl too.
Wow, wow, wow. That's
I'll never
awesome.
forget him sprinting away from the pack on that crossing route from Kurt Warner.
I wish he got a Super Bowl, but he did at least get to one, so
And
that's
he
cool.
played great in it. He did everything he could for his team.
Yep.
Yeah, he was a beast, man.
All right, so that's my number 6. Now, do you your 6 is already taken? So do you have a 5?
I do have a five. Uh,
Okay. I wonder if we have the same one because I have a 5 as well.
yeah,
And
you want to
yeah.
go for it.
Oh, okay. My number 5 is T.O. Terrell Owens.
Boom. I had a feeling.
Yep.
That's
Played for
awesome.
both of our teams.
Yeah, exactly. And he was,
Yep.
listen, the dude was great everywhere he went. He was a pain in the ass sometimes, but he was a great player.
He had a lot of long touchdowns because he had 15,000 yards, almost 16,000, but only just over 1,000 receptions.
Yeah, he's third all time in yardage, and he is sixth all time in receptions. So he had a nice yards per catch. He had a boatload of touchdowns, man. I think he was
153 touchdowns.
that is
Are
third
you
all time.
kidding me?
Third all time. Incredible. Now he was incredible, man. He was, listen, in Philly, there's a lot of mixed feelings about T.O. because of this. Did you ever see the sit-ups on the lawn? Is that only a Philly
Yeah,
thing?
yeah, I
Okay.
remember.
So, but as we found out in retrospect, the real dick on that team was Donovan McNabb.
That's what it
Um,
seems like.
he was there was a famous confrontation in the elevator with T.O. Everybody, including myself, was on McNabb's side at the time. Turns out McNabb was a real jerk. It looks like from everything I can tell after his
Yeah,
career. He was also a functional alcoholic while he was playing, and he was puking in the huddle during the hurry up drive
in the
uh,
Super Bowl.
in the Super Bowl. Yeah. So every bad thing that happened with Tio in Philly, I look at with a big old grain of salt now because there was a lot going on there behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, he was great with San Francisco as well.
He was, oh, dude, and listen, I will forever love Terrell Owens because of the catch he made after he had a little bit of a tough game. He had a couple drops in, I believe it was a playoff game. Help me out here, maybe Craig, if you remember this. When it was towards the end of Steve Young's career, and Steve Young
Oh,
hits
over
it.
the middle.
Yep, and T.O. runs off the field bawling,
Yeah. Yep, yep. And
bawling,
I
and
remember the announcer just kept Owens, Owens, Owens.
and nobody can ever tell me after that that guy didn't care about the game.
Yep, 9,000 yard seasons in 8 seasons with 10 or more touchdowns.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. He was an absolute monster, and
Totally.
he was a specimen too, man. I mean, he was a one of the first of that breed of giant ass muscle bound receiver.
Yeah. All right. That's awesome that we had the same number five.
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. And by the way, my 4 was Larry Fitzgerald, and my 3 was Don Hudson. So I am out until 2.
Well, my four was Steve Largent,
Okay.
but my three we have not talked about yet.
Okay.
Let me get him. Okay. This list has him as number 10, so they're stupid.
I love it.
Okay. My number three is talk about a specimen, Calvin Johnson,
I love it. I love it. And he is my
Megatron.
first honorable mention. And I thought he was going to be way up on this list for me, and I ended up knocking him down a little bit. But I mean, I love the guy.
He only played 9 seasons, but during those 9 seasons, my goodness, he
Yeah,
had
he was as
19.
good as it gets.
He had a 1,900 yard season.
Yes, he did.
In 2012, he had 1,964 yards.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. He had 731 receptions, 11,000 yards, 83 touchdowns. So the numbers aren't there, but again, his career was short. If you just, you know, take the first 9 seasons of all these guys, I bet you his numbers are right there with anybody's.
No doubt. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And talking, super talented, always regarded as one of the best receivers in the league.
Always.
Sometimes had some trouble with some health, but overall, I'm not taking that away from him. That's why I have him all the way up here, all the way up to number three.
Yeah, he was great. He was absolutely great. I just
And
put
I,
him off
and I
because he.
saw one where he was number two.
Yeah, and you can. I mean, I can't go there.
I
Um,
can't either, but I saw one where he was number two.
yeah, and it doesn't stun me. You know what I mean? But I guarantee you, whoever made that list is under 30.
Yeah, because number two I think is pretty clear, but uh, I saw a few of them that actually had him my number two as 3, 4 other lists. But for
Yeah.
me, it's
Oh,
clear.
absolutely. It wasn't as clear cut as I thought it was going to be looking at the lists.
Yeah,
But yeah, the only reason I didn't have Calvin on is because of what you said. He didn't play long enough, so I gave it to guys like Tim Brown over him. You know what I mean?
right, and that makes sense. That's
And
fine.
you can, and it's like we say when we make these lists, it's splitting hairs, and it's just a different version of a good
Yeah.
answer.
Well, this list that I'm looking at has Don Hudson number two.
Yeah, that's exactly the one. Yeah, the one I was reading that thing from earlier has him at number 2 also, and that's NFL.com. You know.
Yep. Okay. So your number three's gone done. So you're at your number two, right?
Yes, sir. And I
Uh,
know we're on the same page here, my man.
yeah, because yeah, yep,
That would be Randy Moss.
absolutely. In my opinion, number two clearly a clear choice.
Completely agree. If Jerry Rice didn't exist, he would be the clear number 1. I mean, like
Yeah,
he was so good. It's hard to believe there was anybody that was ever any better.
Brian Billick, who's one of the head coaches that I actually respect quite a bit, that's in the media now, says he's the most physically gifted receiver in the history of the game. We have never had, nor will we ever see, another receiver with the speed, leaping ability, hands, and burst of Randy Moss.
Great quote. I'm with you on Billick. It's by the way, weird, quick little, not weird, but quick little sidetrack. one of the weirdest mysteries to me in the last 25 years in the NFL is how Brian Bilk never got another head coaching job after he won a Super Bowl with the Ravens.
It's crazy.
I'll never understand it, and unless I've never heard that he wasn't interested, at least in the first 5 years. You know what I mean?
Right. Maybe he was. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe it's on him. But
Yeah,
if he wanted to coach, then he should have been. He should have definitely had another job.
completely agree. So anyway, great quote by him on Randy Moss, and yeah,
10 1,000-yard seasons.
unfreaking believable, unbelievable. I mean, and remember there was the mid career lull where he was on the Raiders for a year or three. I forget how long that lasted, and people were like, "Oh, Randy's done," and blah 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 blah. And then he got traded to the Patriots,
Yep, and
and
he had the season with the undefeated season,
exactly, and the numbers he put up that year, which I have to find, I should have done it, of course,
which
before I.
are insane.
Oh,
While you're looking that up, I'll just say he was a 6-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All Pro, had 156 touchdowns in 15,292 receptions.
I mean, that is
No, I'm
just
sorry, receiving yards.
that's incredible,
Yeah,
incredible,
clearly number two. He
absolutely.
only did he only get to that one Super Bowl though?
Well, that's a good question.
I think that
Um,
is the only Super Bowl he got to with the Patriots.
Minnesota, yeah, he was on that great Minnesota team his rookie year with Randall Cunningham that lost to the Falcons that should have won a Super Bowl that year.
Yep. Didn't the Giants blow them out one year too when they were really good?
I think you're right about that. I
It
don't
was like
remember exactly.
40-0 or something ridiculous.
Was that one of those giant wild card teams?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, man. Yep. So here's what it was. I found the magical season. He goes, and by the way, his first from '98 to 2003. His worst season with the Vikings was 1,233 yards and 10 touchdowns. Then he got hurt in 2004. Only played 13 games, had an off year. Then he ends up in Oakland. I don't really remember how that happened, but then he in Oakland, 60 catches for 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns was his best of his 2 seasons. And
Okay.
people were like, "Oh, Randy's done." I remember hearing that he was 29 years old. Yeah, right, he's done. Goes to New England, his age 30 season, 98 catches for 1,493 yards and 23 touchdowns.
23 touchdowns
23 touchdowns, Greg.
as a receiver? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
insane.
Absolutely bonkers. So yeah, no, I Randy Moss in his prime. I mean,
He was unstoppable, especially to my team. My team had no idea how to stop Randy Moss. He destroyed the Cowboys every time he played them.
he was a beast, man. Oh God, he was so good, so good.
Oh. All right. That's my number two.
Love it.
And your number two, right?
Correct.
All right. So number one is no mystery.
Yeah,
The
easiest one of
thing,
this whole thing.
yeah, the easiest one, and not only that, there's a case to be made that Jerry Rice isn't just the best receiver of all time. There's a case to be made that he's the best player of all time. Period. Stop.
All right, yeah, and listen. I don't know because it's so hard to compare. I don't even know how I feel about that, but I wouldn't argue it if somebody wants to make the case. He is so far ahead of everybody else.
It's
Even
insane.
and even Craig, he played in an era that was completely different than what we're doing right now.
If he
And
played now, he'd have like 150 catches a year.
he retired. Let me get back to my all time list here. He retired with 22,895 receiving
Which
yards,
is bonkers.
which is 5,403 more yards than number two Larry Fitzgerald. If he played, if he played his 20 whatever seasons from 2010 to whenever that would end, 2032 or whatever, he'd have 42,000 yards.
Yeah, and he'd have like another 500 catches easy.
Easy. I mean, it's crazy how good he was in his era.
197 touchdowns.
It's bonkers, dude. It's insane. It doesn't make sense how good he was. He was so much better than everybody. Yeah, I mean, it just. I mean, he leads everything. Like he leads receiving yards by that crazy amount that we mentioned. He leads games played at receiver. By the way, 303 games, which sounds like a good number, but what's the context? Well, number two, Larry Fitzgerald, who played into his 40s, played 263 games.
Yeah,
That's 60 less games. I'm sorry, 40 less games. Tim Brown, who we know
13.
played forever, played 255 games.
Yep, 13 Pro Bowls, 10 All Pros, first team All Pros, 3 championships, 2 Offensive Player of the Year awards. I mean, just yeah, clear. Like you said, the easiest one on this entire list for any position, and I have heard the case made: best football player of all time at any position.
Yeah, it's a reasonable one. It's a reasonable one because it's hard to find that kind of separation between the number one at any other position and everybody else. So,
Yeah, there's not an argument to be made for anybody else.
no,
If anybody puts Jerry Rice number 2 on any list, then they lose all credibility.
they're done. They're the same idiot that didn't vote for, any number of people to get into the Baseball Hall of Fame. That
Oh, like
happens all the time.
the one
Yeah,
guy who didn't vote Ichiro in.
yeah, exactly. That moron. Yep.
Yeah, Ichiro wants to have like dinner with that guy.
Does he really?
I think so.
Oh, what a riot. I
Yeah, I
wonder,
think there's something going on with that.
does he just want to tell him how wrong he was all while they eat?
I don't know. I think he might be, maybe it's like a troll job, but who knows?
Maybe he wants to go out for spaghetti so he can drop a meatball into the gap for a triple? What the hell? I love it. Ichiro's such a fascinating guy, man.
He
I would.
really is.
I'd love to hear about that dinner happening because you know what would be nice about that dinner happening. That would mean we know who the guy is then.
Right, right, right.
Because I hate that guy can hide behind anonymity, man. I don't like that they allow
I
that.
don't like it either. I think if they released all the guys voting, how they voted for everybody,
Hmm.
then a lot more people would be unanimous.
I agree. I completely agree. I think it's silly that they allow them to get away with that. I mean, I remember. Listen, Bill Conlon, who I bring up all the time, who was an idiot in from Philly, who was a longtime sports writer, didn't vote for Nolan Ryan. Now, I don't know if they changed the rules over the years or if he was just such a blowhard that he decided to brag about it. I'm not sure which, but that was the most famous one I ever remember because he went on a media campaign telling everybody how Nolan Ryan's not a Hall of Famer. And it was the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, and I'll never forget it. And, he ended up retiring in disgrace, and good for him.
Wow, yeah, that's just yeah. The Hall of Fame thing is just dumb. I mean, you think about it. I mean, the fact that Mariano Rivera is the only one to be unanimous, that means that Ted Williams, somebody didn't vote for him.
Exactly. Somebody didn't know for Babe Ruth.
Yeah, Willie Mays, all these greats, Mickey
Jackie
Mantle, Joe
Robinson.
DiMaggio.
Who,
Yeah, Jackie Robinson. No,
who's the asshole that said, nah, I'm not voting for Jackie. Forget the social implications. I'm not going to vote for that guy, even though he
well,
murdered.
the thing is, to be honest, that's not surprising because of the time. That was probably racially driven.
100%. 100%.
But the fact that some of these other guys just crazy when they're obviously Hall of Famers.
Yeah, Ty Cobb wasn't voted by, and all the racists should have loved him.
Yeah, I don't know. I
It's
don't get it.
crazy, bro. It's just baseball writers are
The
some of the most
worst.
arrogant dumbasses on the planet.
Yep.
The
Yep.
good ones are great. There's a few good ones, but most of them are idiots.
Totally.
And by the
Totally
way,
agree.
if any of you idiots are listening to this and would like to talk to us about it and justify your stupid positions, I would love to have that conversation.
I would too. All
Especially the
right.
guy that didn't vote for Ichiro.
Yeah. Um. Since we mentioned baseball, real quick, did you see that Hideki Matsui just hit a home run
What?
in batting practice at 50 years old?
I was going to ask how old he is. Okay, with the Yankees or where?
I
In
think it was in
Japan somewhere?
Japan.
Oh my God, that's great. I love it.
Oh,
Godzilla
maybe I don't
returns.
know if they had some sort of I thought it was like an also. I'm looking at it right now. Ichiro was in the dugout cheering him on. I don't know what this is. If this is an old timers game, maybe it's an old timers day game or something like that in Japan. But he had a home run. He's 50 years old, and it wasn't like a drawn in fence like they do for some of the old timers. It
Right,
was
right.
out of the real stadium.
Good for Godzilla, man. That's awesome. I love that. I love that. That's awesome. Did Mothra make an appearance once it cleared the fence?
Mon Mothra. Love it.
Oh, I love it. All right, man. Listen, I'm going to throw this out there. We better hustle up a little bit because I do have to call this around 3, and I want to make sure we get through our tight ends.
Well,
So,
I was just gonna say,
mhm.
since we did the receivers, and of course, even though we're trying to go quicker, we still get caught up in talking about things.
And I'm
Let's
the
just
worst
hold
that
off.
way.
Let's just hold off. Then we're at an hour.
Oh, that's
I've,
perfect, Craig.
I've, I've been trying to keep them a little shorter now, and not have the marathons. But when it's warranted, we will have the marathon still.
Yeah,
Um, but we can lock this one up here. We're at about an hour.
that's great. And
And do tight ends next week. Maybe we'll just do one position at a time, and we'll just get through them all whenever we do.
that sounds perfect, man. And can we hit our honorable mentions before we call it a day?
Absolutely. I have two from the Greatest Show on Turf era. I'm sure you know Isaac Bruce and Holt,
Yep.
Torrey Holt. I have them both on the list. They both just missed, although some of the lists I looked at had them in there.
Yeah, I absolutely. And I'm with you on both.
Okay. Another one I had was Andre Johnson.
Yep, right there with you. He was a beast, and he did it on a expansion team, which is not to be taken lightly.
Right. And Antonio Brown.
Oh, that's a good one, man. I didn't even think about him honestly, but that's a
He
really
had
good one.
some of his years in Pittsburgh are stupid.
Oh,
Some of
him and
his numbers are insane.
his flame out, his stupendous, incredible flame out may have obscured how great he was, but it's great that you had him there. It's a
When you said Tim Brown, remember I said I added another one because
yep,
I just thought of somebody. That's who I thought of.
that's a good one, man. That's a really good one. I love it.
And last but not least on my list is my boy Michael Irvin, my favorite player in the history of the league.
Love it, and he's on my list too, man. Like he's one of my honorable mentions for sure. He was great, and I certainly talk about guys that knew how to handle teams. He took out my Eagles a lot.
He was the heart and soul of that Cowboys team.
Yeah,
Don't
he
let
was.
anybody tell you anything different.
No, that's it's become very apparent over the years hearing people talk.
Yeah.
That's what was going on, and
My
not
favorite player ever. I have like 4 Michael Irvin jerseys.
that's awesome. I don't blame you, man. He was great. He really
I have
was.
home road throwback.
And he was he was kind of like I talked about how To was one of the first like super monster receivers that are like crazy chiseled and muscly and tall. But Irvin was even earlier and starting heading towards that prototype. He was a
And
big receiver,
Well, I'll tell you what. That's the thing too. Is he was very physical. Like he
super
was,
fit.
he was the guy going over the middle, taking the hit. He was down the field. He wasn't super fast. He was fast enough, but he wasn't
Hmm.
super fast. He was more. He was a lot. You know who was a lot like him? Remind me a lot of him. Des Bryant.
Oh yeah,
Des
absolutely.
Bryant was very physical too, not super fast. Although no one was really catching him from behind. But whatever. I'm just saying. Michael Irvin in that Bills Super Bowl where he caught that ball on the sidelines and then spun around
Yeah.
diving in. That's one of my favorite moments in the history of the league. I love that catch.
Nah, hey, listen, I get it, man. He was awesome, and he made my list too because I know how great he was. I saw him more than enough.
Yeah. You
uh,
had a couple extras, right?
yes, I have 3 more. I have one is my homer pick. He's the Eagles' all-time greatest receiver. I can't justify him being on the list, but he is worthy of honorable mention, and that is as Chris. Oh God, the guy, the Brumbling Bumble, Chris Berman calls
Oh,
him or called him the Angular One, which is one of my favorite nicknames ever. Harold Carmichael, who
Harold Carmichael. Yeah, I love him. I
Harold
remember him.
Carmichael, Craig, do you believe? Can you believe
Was he
that?
on the Giants as well?
Ooh, good question. I let me find it while we're talking. But he was mostly an Eagle, but I can't remember what happened at the end of his career. And I just typed in Eagle, not Harold Carmichael. Oh, that's awesome. All right, here we go. Having the second.
So you would say he's the best Eagles receiver ever, huh?
He is almost unanimously considered that. Yes.
Okay.
The only competition to that so far is, and now listen, AJ Brown plays another 3 or 4 years in Philly. We're going to have a conversation, and he's going to be that guy. But
Right.
until that happens, it's Harold. Harold Carmichael caught 590 passes playing for the Eagles. Oh, you know what's wild? The only team he played for that wasn't the Eagles was the Cowboys.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
he went there at age 35 and only played 2 games and caught one pass, and then it looks like he retired then or something. But
Okay.
but yeah, he at a time he played during the absolute worst time for receivers ever. You know what I mean? And he still put up good numbers. You know, his best season ever. He led the league. Check this out. In '73, he led the league in receptions with 67 and receiving yardage with 1,116.
Wow.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was league leading, and and he was right around those marks for a lot of his career. You know, he was always somewhere around 60 catches and a little under or a little over 1,000 yards, and for the time that was killer. And he caught a lot of touchdowns because he was so tall. He was 5'8". Did I say that already? He was 6'8".
Um, really? I didn't know that.
Yep, I think he's still the tallest receiver ever to play. He was taller than Plaxico Burress.
6'8". That's insane.
Yeah, he's listed on Pro Football References 6'8", 225.
Wow.
So yeah, okay. So Harold Carmichael was my homer guy, and it's justified. Um, the other one I love, one of my all-time favorites, and talk about hands. And he made a certain substance famous, and that is Fred Bolitnikoff.
Oh, I should have mentioned. I should have had him on the honorable mentions.
His numbers are middling, but he was great in his era. If you try, he doesn't stack up anymore now that you know this modern era has kicked a lot of those guys down the list. But he was great in his era. He had hands for days. He was Chris Carter of his era, maybe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and yeah, talk about the time. I mean, he was playing at a time where they were running the ball, 70% of the time or 80% of the time, probably.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah,
You
man.
know,
So that was one, and I love that '70s Raiders team. That's one of the teams I've always been fascinated with. So that was I had to put him in my honorable mentions, and then the last one is Raymond Berry.
another guy that I almost put on my list.
Barry's an interesting guy. I remember hearing so much about him when I was young. He retired in '67, so he was done long before I had a chance to know who he was.
Yeah, me too. But I know
Uh,
of him. I've heard of him for sure, and I know he was really good.
yeah, and you know everything about him just says beast. But the numbers are old school, so you know it's hard to compare. But he was the one of the best of his era between him and like Lance Allworth and maybe another guy or two I'm not thinking of. But so that's the last guy I wanted to mention, Raymond Berry.
Okay, so next week we'll do our Super Bowl review. I think I'll be congratulating you,
I hope you're
and
right, man. I love your prediction better than mine.
and we'll do our tight ends list, and then as we go through the off season, we'll have one podcast to do the running backs and the quarterbacks, and that'll just be the whole podcast 1 week during the off season.
Yeah, man. However it rolls is good with me. I love it. This is so much fun. I love doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that's our Super Bowl edition, our Super Bowl predictions. I've got a huge win for the Eagles, 32-17. Al, your number was what was it? 30.
30, 33-30 Eagles.
Okay. And we will see what we see. And until next time, I will see you later.